Most people pray they come home to a quiet, empty house after a long trip. I came home a full day early, and I wish to God it had been empty. Because what I walked into that Tuesday afternoon wasn't just betrayal. It was slow, calculated murder happening right under my roof. And the person behind it? My own son. Before we dive deeper into this nightmare, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop your name in the comments below. Let's build this community together. My name is Warren Trevor, 54 years old, 23 years married to the same woman, Cassandra. After 2 decades sharing a bed, a bathroom, and a life, you develop a sixth sense about your spouse. You can feel when something's off before you even see it, like a smell in the air that doesn't belong there. That Tuesday, I felt it the second I turned onto our quiet suburban street in Ohio. I wasn't supposed to be home. My conference in Denver had ended a full day early. Keynote speaker had a family emergency, or maybe he just looked out at the crowd and gave up. Either way, I grabbed the first flight back. No calls, no texts. I wanted to surprise Cassandra. Maybe pick up her favorite Thai food. Actually sit across the table from her without my laptop acting as a third wheel for once. I was feeling good, optimistic. I should have known better. The first red flag hit me like a brick when I pulled into the driveway. Preston's car was parked right there, bold as brass. Preston is our only son, 26 years old, married to Lindsay for 2 years now. They have their own nice apartment across town, one I helped furnish, by the way. Preston doesn't do surprise visits. He barely does scheduled ones. I sat in my rental car for a long moment, engine still running, and muttered out loud to nobody, "Warren, why the hell is your son's car in your driveway on a random Tuesday afternoon?" No answer came. So I grabbed my carry-on, walked up to the front door, and the second red flag slammed into me. The silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the everyone's relaxing kind. This was thick, heavy, wrong, like the house itself was holding its breath. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. There they were. Preston and Lindsay, sitting side by side on our living room couch. They weren't watching TV, they weren't scrolling on their phones, they were just sitting there, like 2 people in a doctor's waiting room who already knew the test results were terminal. Preston looked up first, and here's the detail that still gives me chills every single time I replay it in my head. He wasn't surprised to see me, not even a little. No wide eyes, no "Dad, what are you doing here?" No jolt, just a slow blink and a look I can only describe as calculated. Lindsay forced a smile. That smile had no business being on her face that day. I stood there, bag still in my hand, and said, "Preston, what's going on? Where's your mother?" He cleared his throat, calm as ever. "Dad, hey, we were actually just about to call you." I repeated it flat. "Were you?" Then he dropped it. "Mom had an episode this morning. She's at Mercy General, but she's stable." After Mercy General, everything else blurred. I was back in my car in 11 seconds flat. I counted. I called my best friend Kurt on the way. Curtis Barnes, known him since 1987. Cassandra is in the hospital, Mercy General. I just walked in the house and Preston and Lindsay were sitting there like they already knew how the movie ends. Dead silence on his end. Then, very quietly, "Warren, I need you to stay calm." I said, "I am calm." He answered, "No, you're driving. That's not the same thing." I made the 15-minute drive in 9. Dr. Beverly Nash met me at the nurse's station. "Mr. Trevor, your wife was brought in this morning by your son. Severe disorientation, organ stress, and elevated toxicity markers in her blood work." Toxicity markers. The word landed like a punch to the gut. I gripped the edge of the counter. Toxicity markers? She held my gaze. "This pattern, it isn't consistent with a sudden illness. It suggests something that's been building." Building. That single word changed everything. I asked the question I never thought I'd have to ask about my own family. "Dr. Nash, are you telling me someone has been doing something to my wife?" She didn't flinch. "I'm telling you we need more answers, and I think you do too." They let me in to see Cassandra. She looked hollowed out, like someone had slowly turned down every light inside her. I sat beside her, took her cold hand, and made a promise. I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I know exactly what happened to you. When I walked back to the waiting area, Preston and Lindsay had already arrived. Preston stood up. "Dad, we should talk. There's a lot you don't—" I raised one hand. Not yet. Then I did the one thing they never saw coming. I started locking down every single account they had access to. When the notifications started blowing up their phones, I watched Lindsay's fake smile vanish in real time. That was the moment I knew I had just kicked the hornet's nest. Now, the only question was, how many hornets were waiting inside? If you want to know what happened next, subscribe and turn on notifications.
Denial is a warm, comfortable liar. It pours you coffee and whispers that you're overreacting, that the people you love could never do something like this. That night, sitting in the hospital parking lot at 9:43 p.m., I finally evicted denial for good. I called Kurt again. "She looks terrible, Kurt." My voice cracked. "The doctor said toxicity, said it's been building, gradual." He exhaled slowly. "Warren, gradual means deliberate." Then he asked the question that cracked the case open. "Think carefully. Who had daily access to Cassandra's food, her drinks, her medication over the last few months?" And that's when it hit me like ice water. 4 months earlier, Cassandra had twisted her ankle. Preston suggested Lindsay come by every morning to help with breakfast and her medications. I had actually thanked him. I went back inside the waiting room. Preston stood by the vending machine, trying too hard to look innocent. Lindsay sat with her phone face down, a huge red flag because she's never without that phone. I sat directly across from them. Preston tried, "Dad, I know how this looks." "Do you, Preston? Walk me through exactly how you think this looks." He shifted. "Mom's been having health issues. Lindsay came by every morning, made sure she ate, took her vitamins." "Which vitamins?" I asked. He blinked, looked at Lindsay. Lindsay looked at her lap. That 3-second glance told me everything. I stood up. "I need both of you to go home." Preston started to argue. I said his name once, quiet and cold. "Go home." They left. I sat with terrible hospital coffee and started digging through bank statements. Small withdrawals, $200 here, $350 there. Over 5 months, it added up to almost $11,000 from our joint account. I called Kurt at 2 a.m. 11,000, small and consistent, like someone who knew exactly how to stay under the radar. Kurt was quiet. "Warren, that's not impulsive. That's planned." My son. Those 2 words nearly broke me. The next morning, Dr. Nash sat beside me. "The full panel is back. Your wife has elevated levels of a heavy metal compound, consistent exposure over months. We've started treatment. She has a strong chance of recovery." I asked the question no father should ask. If someone were doing this deliberately, how would they get it into her? Dr. Nash chose her words carefully. "Through food, drink, especially powder-based supplements that dissolve easily and have no strong taste." Lindsay making breakfast every morning. Lindsay handling the vitamins. I stood so fast the chair scraped loud. I called my attorney first. Then the bank, every account locked, restructured, new passwords only I and my lawyer knew. Preston's access? Gone. Within 20 minutes, my phone exploded. Preston calling 4 times, Lindsay twice, then the text in all caps. "Dad, what did you do? Why can't I access anything? Call me back right now." I typed back one line. "You should have thought about that before you touched my wife." But $11,000 and a poisoned wife don't happen without a reason. People don't plan something this patient without a destination in mind. I needed to know where they were trying to go. Kurt called at 7:14 the next morning while I was staring at bad hospital coffee. He didn't say hello. "Warren, you need to brace yourself. Tell me, 6 weeks before Cassandra collapsed, she had quietly visited an estate attorney, alone. She updated her life insurance policy. The original had Preston as secondary beneficiary. Cassandra removed him completely and redirected the entire $2.3 million to a charitable literacy foundation she had been building in secret for 2 years. She never told me because she wanted it to be a surprise. Preston had found out somehow. Instead of talking like an adult, he and Lindsay decided the best solution was to make sure Cassandra never lived long enough to finish the paperwork. The attorney had a 30-day processing window. Cassandra had exactly 30 days left on that window when she collapsed. 30 days. My wife had 30 days left to live in their plan. I sat with that information for a long time. Then I stood up, straightened my jacket, and made a decision. I wasn't going to be loud. I wasn't going to be sloppy. I was going to be methodical. I called my attorney, Margaret Holloway, sharp, no-nonsense, 30 years in the game. I told her everything: withdrawals, supplements, insurance change, timing. She was quiet for 4 seconds. Then, "Warren, don't touch anything in that house. Don't confront them, don't post, don't hint. Can you do that?" "I can." "Good, because when this lands, it's going to land completely. No cracks, no exits." I said, "Margaret, I want them to feel every single inch of this." She chuckled darkly. "Honey, by the time I'm done, they'll feel the square footage." The next 72 hours felt like eternity. Cassandra slowly improved. On day 2, she opened her eyes and said in her weak voice, "Warren, you look terrible." I laughed out loud in the ICU. She gave a tiny smirk. "Someone has to." I held her hand and told her she was safe, that everything was being handled. She looked at me with those sharp eyes. "It was Preston, wasn't it?" I just held her hand tighter. She whispered, "I always knew that boy had my worst qualities and none of my best ones." Even half-conscious, Cassandra was still the most formidable woman I'd ever known. On day 4, Margaret called with explosive news. Kurt had pulled surveillance from a pharmacy 2 towns over. Preston had bought the specific supplement 3 times, always cash, once Lindsay was waiting in the car. The supplement contained the exact heavy metal compound found in Cassandra's blood. Margaret also had the bank trail and the estate attorney's records. And the biggest mistake, Preston had called the attorney's office pretending to be Cassandra's assistant, using his own cell phone. My son, the man who planned a months-long poisoning with chess grandmaster patients, had used his personal phone. When Kurt told me, I stared at the wall and said, "Did I raise a criminal mastermind or a complete idiot?" Somehow, both. Day 5, Preston and Lindsay showed up at the hospital carrying flowers and fake concern. Preston walked in first, saw me in the corridor, and flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Dad, how is she? We've been so worried." I looked at him, then at Lindsay, then back. "She's awake, she's talking, and she's going to make a full recovery." Something flickered behind his eyes. Not relief, recalculation. Lindsay tried, "That's such wonderful news, Warren." "The police are on their way," I said flatly. Preston's face drained of color. "What?" "Margaret filed everything this morning. Pharmacy receipts, bank records, the call to the estate attorney, Dr. Nash's toxicology report, all of it." Lindsay made a sound like her soul was leaving her body. Preston started, "Dad, just listen for 1 second. There is nothing you can say to me right now. Not 1 sentence covers this, so stop talking." They were arrested in the hospital parking lot, still holding the flowers. I watched from the window as the officers approached. Preston tried to talk his way out of it. Lindsay went completely quiet, already calculating a plea deal. Kurt appeared beside me. "How do you feel?" Like I aged 10 years in 5 days. Like I want to sleep for a month. Like I'm the saddest I've ever been and the most certain I've ever been about anything. And Cassandra? I looked toward her room. She's going to be fine. She always was. She's the toughest person I know. And she married me. Kurt laughed. For just a moment, the weight lifted. 3 months later, Cassandra came home on a golden October Saturday. She stood in the hallway and looked around like she was cataloging everything she almost lost. Then she turned to me and said, "Warren, the kitchen needs repainting." I groaned. "I just painted it 2 years ago." She pointed at the wall. "That is not white. That is the color of a bureaucratic apology." I looked at the wall, looked at her. Then I pulled out my phone and called the painter. Preston and Lindsay were charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and financial fraud. Margaret prosecuted like she had waited her whole career for a case this clean. The trial lasted 11 days. The jury took only 4 hours to reach a verdict. They were sentenced to significant time. Whatever number I gave you wouldn't feel like enough anyway. When the verdict was read, I sat next to Cassandra. She gripped my hand with steel strength. Afterward, she leaned over and whispered, "I want Thai food." Right now? I've been thinking about Thai food for 3 months, Warren. Do not test me. So we got Thai food. Kurt came, Margaret came, even Dr. Beverly Nash came. We sat around the table, ate, laughed, and I watched my wife gesture wildly while telling a story. There she was, my Cassandra. At the beginning, I told you I came home early and wished the house had been empty. I take that back. I'm glad I came home. I'm glad I walked through that door. I'm glad I saw what I saw and did what I did, because if I had landed 1 day later, Cassandra wouldn't have made it, and I would have spent the rest of my life never knowing why. You can't control what people choose to become in the dark. You can only control what you do when the lights come on. I came home. I turned the lights on, and I made sure every single person in that house faced exactly what they had done. That's the job. That's always been the job. If this story hit you hard, smash that like button, subscribe for more raw family stories, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you walked into something like that? Drop your name too. I read every single one. Thank you for being here. Stay safe out there. And remember, sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need to watch the hardest. Until next time.